You're about to see the 10 biggest egos in the NBA today. We all know confidence is the driving force for a talent's success, but with the notoriety that comes along with being in this league, sometimes that can cause a self-esteem inflation, which can expose pettiness and ruin a top-notch talent's reputation. So let's look into which players have backed up their ego and which ones looked foolish amidst the spotlight. Quickly, Ronto takes the lead in Community Speaks, saying OKC's the most shocking team of 2020, giving great insight on how we all expected a rebuild. Every answer is much appreciated. Yearly top 5 get anything from NBA shoes to jerseys. Question for next vid, shout out after the list. To be clear, this isn't a ranking. Having said that, the number one ego I'm keying in on comes from D. Mitch. I'll get to his beef with Rudy Gobert, which wasn't a great look for either players, but firstly, I can't ignore how Donovan's getting it done on the court. His jumper's gotten way more efficient than it was in past seasons. From 16 feet to the three-point line, the man's vamped his efficiency by 7% from 2018-19. He's only in his third season, so with that improvement, my question is, how much better is that shot gonna get? On this play, he upfakes Kawhi Leonard, then explodes into the lane, and we knew he could slash with the best of them in prior seasons, but it's his smooth perimeter game that opens up space for that ruthless slashing even more. But in this next part, I'm not trying to hate on Donovan, and I know Rudy Gobert's actions honestly displayed nothing less than
blasphemy! The blasphemy! To sit up there!
He didn't take the virus seriously, to say the ultimate least, and according to Woj, he was also mocking the virus in the locker room before the infamous press conference. His actions were childish, that was clear. But the guy donated $500,000 and made a genuine apology. Although the NBA community's torn him apart, Rudy knew he messed up, and as humans we all make mistakes, but it's how we bounce back. Rudy bounced back pretty exceptionally, and an important thing to remember is that the season was getting suspended either way. Mitchell wasn't buying the forgiveness though. 2 days after Rudy's apology, Mitchell went on Good Morning America, and here's what happened.
Has apologized, but have you had a chance to have any communication with your teammate?
To be honest with you, Robin, it took a while, for me to kind of cool off, and I read what he said and I heard what he said, so.
He did say, I hope he's okay after that, but there were also reports from the reputable Athletic that Mitchell was reluctant to repair their relationship. Like, really? Everyone's aware Rudy looked idiotic, but to not forgive a teammate you go to war with looks pretty foolish. On and off the court throughout Damian Lillard's NBA career, he's come through under massive spotlight. As a rapper, Rip City's point guard goes infamously by Dame Dollar. I'm no rap critic, but he had some pretty solid flow performing at the All-Star game 2.5 months ago. I didn't mind him. Between the lines, we're just over a year removed since he ended the Westbrook and George era in OKC. Of course, the Thunder organization bounced back from that though, but converting cold-blooded deep-range series winners seems like it's going to be a theme throughout Lillard's career. It was a pretty impressive 2019 playoff run for Dame, given how he stood up to Westbrook and absolutely owned that matchup in last year's Round 1 series and ultimately led his team to the conference finals. Lillard's egos allowed down-the-stretch scenarios in Portland for the last 7 years to be deemed as Dame time. My only concern is how much Lillard's focus on basketball dwindles and shifts to his music career when he's thinking about facing players like LeBron and Kawhi in the postseason. I met Dame at 2016's All-Star Weekend in Toronto when I was in 12th grade. Lillard was a classy man and did a great job endorsing the game to a young fan like myself. For that, I want to see him win a ring, and maybe his ego's taken off a bit since then, but that's a given and also a must if you want to have success. Through it all though, Lillard's ego hasn't taken away his humbleness, and he's without a doubt used his ego in the right way as he's been loyal to Portland for all these years. Let's get King James out of the way. He was mentioned on my 9 most shocking teams list on Thursday. That's a must watch, but in terms of the ego from LBJ, he's without a doubt backed his up. What many forget who use his 3-6 finals record against his legacy is that LeBron's qualified his squads for the finals an unheard of 9 times. I'm not making an argument for or against him being the greatest of all time, but can we not put some serious respect on how he carried squads that had zero business getting into June 8 straight times last decade? Then there's his GM mode, where he's helped to facilitate moves in both the Cavs front office when he was in Cleveland, and of course now he's having a massive say on the Lakers roster in LA. LeBron's aware he's a basketball genius, but doesn't get cocky, yet instead confident. He's a master of training your mind, and his involvement with the Calm meditation app says a lot about his awareness in life. This piece of audio says a lot to me.
We're so focused on strength that we forget to strengthen our focus. The mind is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. And while the greats mastered the body, the greatest mastered the mind.
LeBron spent his off days during the season recording a 5-part meditation series titled Train Your Mind, giving away his secrets to his on-court mindset that's led to his brilliance. I swear this isn't sponsored. I've got no connection to the company, but being a user of the app for years and then seeing an icon of mine release something like this was pretty miraculous, especially during these times we need meditation, so I'd recommend the app to anyone. But moving on to number 4, as you see, is Russ, who at times throughout his career has lost control of his ego.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man.
Although this interview created a classic meme for society into the everlasting future, it didn't paint Russell as the best guy around, and it's not just with the media that Russ is mixing it up with. In the modern NBA, we don't see too many televised arguments with players and fans anymore, as obnoxious hecklers are 99.7% of the time, I'd say, ignored by players. In the case of Westbrook, that percentage of ignoring fans is a lot lower. We're constantly seeing this guy stir things up and let his emotions get the best of him. Allowing these little things to get the best of you can completely distract a player, especially one that's in the most watched basketball league on the planet. Fans inevitably are going to be dumb. There's damn near 20,000 of them in one building at times. Be the professional and move on is what you do. I'd like to see Russ do that more. He's bounced back this season big time in Houston. He's playing really well. He's been as explosive as ever, but when things get heated in the playoffs, Russ has to stay cool this time around. Draymond Green's revealed every detail to an altercation with Kevin Durant against the Clippers early last season, which caused extreme tension in the Warriors locker room. A lot was said in his 2.5-hour On the Smoke podcast, but I suggest you pause to read all of his rant quotes. But here's how that Clipper altercation on the bench went down, which was after Draymond completely ignored KD when the game was tied with seconds winding down in the fourth, and then turned the ball over. Here's what happened according to Draymond. Kevin comes to the bench and he slaps the bench like, yo, pass me the effing ball. I'm like, get the F out of here. Effing run then. And he's like, you heard what the F I said, and slaps the chair. Pass me the effing ball. I'm like, yo, you better calm the F down. I don't know who the F you think you're talking to. Remember, I got the pulse of this team. I got the pulse of this organization. I already know you're 1 foot in and 1 foot out. By the way, I'm the closest person here to you. When you have a problem, when it going on in your life, the person you talk to here is me. We got that relationship. So that's where I'm like, yo, who the F you think you're talking to? I've been an all-star before you got here. I've been doing this. Don't talk to me like I'm one of those little dudes that don't know how to hoop. I'm a grown man. So you can tell in the clip, Draymond's going after him the entire time. After the outburst from Draymond back in November of 2018, the Warriors front office thought he was in the wrong and wanted him to apologize, but he refused twice, and Bob Myers suspended him. Many are trying to paint Draymond as a guy who just benefited from having all-stars around him and are forgetting he was a 3-time all-star and 2017's Defensive Player of the Year. That's for a reason, though. His pettiness has gotten real, and quarantine seems to be exposing that further for us fans. He can be a good player, but Draymond Green's ego must settle down, or he could find himself out of the NBA. Kevin Durant's character doesn't look great after this as well, but given Draymond's brash personality, the colliding of egos pretty much forced him out of Golden State. By 2019's All-Star break, KD was so fed up with the situation in Golden State that he met up with Kyrie to discuss teaming up in 2019's summer. We know obviously Kyrie says 2 max spots in this clip, referring to New York team's cap space. This displayed why, since the start of this channel in February 2018, I regularly refer to KD as the Snake. He's an all-time great scorer, but the opposite of Damian Lillard when it comes to loyalty. No hate though, the man does what is rightfully his decision. But it's been insane watching him go from the most well-respected up-and-coming superstar in Oklahoma City into likely the most hated player in the entire NBA. Most fans just haven't forgotten the man joined a 73-win team. However, he was the driving factor to their utter dominance of the league, and if you can find one guy who has the right to the ego that he has, it's the killer that's Kevin Durant. I wonder if James Harden legitimately thinks he's the best player in the league. Luckily, we have Rachel Nichols.
The All-Star Game is a collection of the NBA's best players.
Yeah.
Where do you think you rank in that right now? Where do you think you rank among the NBA's best players right now?
I feel like I'm the best player. If I have 18.9, the next game I'm seeing a double team, which is pretty cool. You know, the NBA has never seen it before at half court.
Why does he think getting double teamed validates him as a top 5 MVP candidate?
Totally different than any other player in this league, or probably has ever been schemed for. Anymore, he sees a double team, he sees a trap at half court every single night. Like, nobody's mentioning that, you know? I'm not the type to go out there and say it or broadcast it.
Oh, broadcasting it while saying I'm not the type to broadcast. But this interview is about to get much better as Rachel brings the real heat with this next question.
I knew Charles Barkley, when they had the All-Star draft, was saying, oh, no one wants to take James Harden, he's a dribbler. Giannis Antetokounmpo makes a joke on the air about, I want to take someone who can pass. I'm taking Kemba Walker instead of James Harden.
I average more assists than him, I think.
You ranked 10th in assists going into the All-Star break, and Kemba ranked 36th in assists going into the All-Star break.
I don't see what the joke is, but I didn't even see it. And I don't pay attention to stuff like that. I just know none of them can mess with me.
Rockets fans, he's a top scorer, but can't you agree his ego's getting a bit out of control? He's not a fool by any stretch for wanting to be the best, so while in one sense he seemed obnoxious in that interview, Giannis was cracking jokes at his expense that was real disrespect felt by James, and his resume can back up that talk. Speaking of thinking you're the best player in the league, Joel Embiid's been big on how he feels about being in that discussion.
Well, I'm glad, first of all, I'm glad we got the win. Second of all, this is one of the best defensive players in the league. And third of all, I've been hearing that these guys can't go on me better than anybody else, so I just have to come out and show that I'm the most unstoppable player in the league.
Now I know you're probably going to say that was last year in March, but at the 2020 All-Star break, Joel still called himself the best player in the world again, and I promise you, this isn't a meme. But me and Stephen A are on the same page here when speaking on Embiid.
You can say he has a point. I can say I don't give a damn. I don't want to hear that from him. Here's the reality of the situation. Joel Embiid at 7'1", 250 plus, clearly elite skills, an all-star. This guy is down in points. He's down in rebounds. He's down in blocks. He's down in field goal percentage shooting. And now is when you talk about you the best in the world? What kind of damn sense does that make? Who does that? Who does that while you going this way?
Some nights he can be all that, when he windmilled a dunk to help put the Sixers up 2-1 in the East Finals against the soon-to-be champions. Then his ego didn't come close to withstanding the test when the Kawhi roll dropped in, as Embiid was crying and memed forever. I know the saying goes, you're supposed to feel you're the best player in the league. That would have been the right time, though, for Embiid to take a step back and evaluate his self-esteem so he doesn't get let down so hard again in the playoffs. But this occurrence has only seemed to inflate his ego even more. Jimmy Butler's been one of the boldest, most outgoing personalities across the league for about a decade now, but unlike most of the egos displayed tonight, Butler's got a likable way about him. But that can be a delusion because between the lines, Jimmy's shown he's one of the toughest players across the NBA and a player who can lock up the perimeter for opposing teams on any given night, while being able to provide elite scoring on the other end simultaneously. All that skill from Butler does come with a price tag of ego. Look at what happened to Karl Anthony Towns or Andrew Wiggins. Jimmy knew their commitment to winning wasn't on the same wavelength as those two. I think Jimmy saw the same thing with Joel Embiid, and he ultimately knew he couldn't get it done in Philly. Bottom line is, if Butler's not surrounded with players that have the same or at least similar strength in their mentality and commitment to winning like himself, he won't be happy. Jimmy's only going to be satisfied when he brings home a ring. And based off his signing in Miami, he wants to be the guy, and there's so much respect to be had in that. One of my favorite players for sure, and his ego, at least so far in his career, has been backed up. We've worked our way to maybe the man you clicked on this video to see. Kyrie Irving, as I like to call him Uncle Drew, needs to be respected as one of the greatest basketball showmen both on and off the court. With a ball in his hands, he needs to be recognized as one of the top ball handlers ever, and in the NBA today, one of the clutchest killers in the fourth. When he's not hooping, the main thing society probably knows him for is unfortunately being the flat earth guy. As bold as they can get, we all have opinions some are gonna hate, but I guess I can live with that opinion. But his time in Boston was absolutely horrible for his reputation, and I gotta touch on that. The man straight up promised he was gonna